Hello, all of my JUKI friends. My name is Alba, and today we are going to talk about making a quilt-as-you-go table runner on a serger. Today I will be working on the MO-2800, but this is a project that can be done on virtually any serger. Let me go into the supplies that I will be using, and I'm going to show those on the table. So for this, I need 10 pieces of thinner batting cut to 13.5 by 8.5. And 4 pieces of fabric, and I'm going to try and hold those up. And I really like doing this with reverse prints, and it just makes it coordinate so much easier. So for this, I am using 2 solids and 2 prints, but it can be a scrappy look. It could be a collection of fabrics, anything that will go into your home decor. And the reason that I chose 13.5 as my width, my finished table runner will be 12 inches. And I wanted a little bit extra, and 3/8 of a yard came out to 13.5 inches. So it leaves me enough room that if, as I'm going along, my sides aren't perfectly straight, it leaves me room for errors so that I could trim up at the end. And I always like to make things easier on myself that way. So 4 fabrics, 3/8 of a yard each, that were cross-cut into 8.5 by the 13.5 with the fabric that I purchased. You may want to have some pins on hand or some clips to keep all of your pieces together. And you will want to thread your serger set up for a 4-thread overlock with threads that coordinate your fabrics. Now, I took 2 pieces of my fabric and a piece of batting, and I did a test stitch. And what I was looking for is a balanced serger stitch. And it's always important to test this on the fabrics that you will be using. Had I tested this with no batting in between, my settings would not have been correct for my project. And when I say a balanced stitch, the threads of the stitching should match right at the top of the fabric. And there should be no looping. This should lay nice and flat with no curling, no waffling, no stretching. So nice and flat with that. Now, I could tell you that I have my settings between 5 and 6 across my needles and my loopers on my machine, but your machine may vary a little bit because your fabric may be a different quality. You may have a different type of batting. So it's very important to test your stitches to make sure that you achieve a balanced stitch. Now, my stitch length, I'm going to turn my machine so that you could see that, is at a 2. My differential feed, I took it just slightly off of neutral. And what that differential feed does is, it is rear and front feed dogs that feed the fabric. So if you're finding that your fabric is shifting, you may want to go closer to that 0.07 or in a lower number, just slightly, so that your fabric feeds smoothly. So now that we have our settings on our serger, we are going to start this project. So just bear with me, come back in 1 minute, and we'll get started with the project. let's get started with our Quilt As You Go Serger table runner. What I have in front of me are 2 of my prints and a piece of batting. And what I need to do with this is create a quilt sandwich. So on one side of my batting, my fabric is face up, and when I flip that over, I am going to do the same thing. So I have 2 pieces of fabric and my batting in the middle. Now, you can with this, at this point, every piece that we are working on, you can go to your sewing machine and do free motion. You could do quilting as you go and work with one piece at a time. But for my particular table runner, I'm going to leave it as is. Now, this is our base piece that we are starting with, and now we're going to attach other pieces as we go. Now, I'm doing alternating print and solid. So what I will do is right sides to right sides, place a piece of fabric together, and you will see right side to right side, and a piece of batting on top of that, matching up all of my sides, and I will turn that over, and I am going to do the backing portion. And what I love about this is that you're creating your top and your bottom layer all in one step. Now, because I am at a serger, when I add pins, I put my pins far away from the edge of my fabric so that I do not need to remove them, and they're not in the way of my blade on my knife. So I will review my settings again. All of my tensions are set between a 5 and a 6. I have both needles engaged, so I'm at a 4-thread overlock. My stitch length is at a 2, and what normally is done is 2.5 to 3, so I'm a little bit smaller on that stitch length to make sure that everything holds together securely. And my differential feed is between the N and 0.07 for my particular fabric and batting, just to make sure that we weren't getting any shifting in the fabric. Now, I'm raising my foot to place my pieces just under the tip of the foot, but not all the way to my needle. And I will lower that foot. Now, I am just trimming a little bit off to make sure that everything stays straight. So now, let me serge these together. Perfect. You'll notice how easily that serger went through all of this bulk, and I love that about the MO-2800. Now I'm going to open this up, and I'm just going to press that seam flat, and I have my iron right here at the side of my machine, and I am pressing on one side, and I'm making sure to open up both sides and pressing. And what I like about pressing with batting is that the fabric sticks together really nicely. Now, as I'm going along with my project, I am going to choose my next color print. So this is where I like doing a reverse print. On that first block that I made, my background is white with black dots, and the reverse print is a black background with a white dot. And what I am going to do is I am going to place my first one down, matching up my fabrics and my piece of batting. And I'm going to repeat on that back side as well. Now, I'm noticing that I seem to be, oh, no, there I go. Perfect. You want to make sure that as you're serging, you're cutting off enough that you catch all of the layers of fabric. And this process will be repeated until you've gone through all of your cut pieces of fabric. Again, I'm making sure all of my layers are matching up and that I will be serging through all of the layers. And now when I open this up, you're going to start to see how pretty that table runner will be. And I'm going to hold that up for you. Now for me, I'm going to press this. It's really important to press those seams flat so that as you trim up later, everything is laying nice and flat. Now, it was 4 different fabrics that I had you choose. So fabric number 1, fabric number 2, fabric number 3. Now I'm going to lay down that 4th fabric way. But you could see that if you had a scrappy set of fabrics, you could do this with virtually as many fabrics as you like. I am laying my next piece of fabric and my batting on top of that. Your batting is always up top facing you as you're sewing. And I'm placing that backing fabric. And you'll see front and back is completely finished off. So I'm going to bring this to my serger. And again, if you feel that you need to pin or use clips, please do. I'm matching up all of my fabrics. Making sure I have everything straight and not caught up. And I'm going to open that up. And you see how very quickly this has come together. Now, of course, you can, as we did this step by step, be doing quilting in each one of these areas. And let me talk just a little bit about the quilting. What I love about a project like this is that can be free motion. That can be straight line quilting with your walking foot, or your smart feed system. It could be done with rulers even. So this gives you a small area to work with, and you're working one section at a time versus a whole big piece. And if your quilting skills are not that great, you could even remove that backing layer and not go through all areas. But I wanted to show you how that's coming along and seeing that the reverse side is finished that quickly. I'm going to continue to sew all of my fabric pieces until I have no more left, and I'll be right back to show you that progress. Now, as you can see, I have finished sewing all of my pieces to get my completed table runner. And what I have done is I have trimmed up the sides to clean them up. And I will be finishing my table runner with a serged edge. And what I wanted to show you is how to get a neat serger corner. And we're going to get close up to the machine so that you can see that. As I'm serging my sides, I am trimming off just a little bit to keep everything even. And I'm going slowly over those seams. And I'm coming to a corner. And this is where you want to slow down. You want to get to the point where, and I'm using my hand wheel now, my needles come to just at the edge of the fabric. And you could see that in this window right here. I am going to raise my foot and pull my fabric so that it is loose from my stitch finger, and arrange that corner right in front of the needles. So I find it easier to have my needles in the down position for positioning. And I want to be right up against my knife. And I'm going to raise my knife a little bit. So my fabric is right up against my knife, but just at where the needles are starting. And I am going to lower that. Now, before I sew, I am tugging at all 4 of my threads, because when I've loosened this up to do my sewing, I had a little bit of thread slack, and I don't want thread tails. I want a nice, neat corner. And I am going to repeat that on this very next corner for you so that you could see that again. I'm cutting off just enough to keep everything nice and even, and going slowly, even using my hand wheel, turning towards me. I have gotten to where my needles have just stopped on that black fabric. So I've sewn all the way to the very edge. I am going to raise my foot. I'm going to loosen my fabric just slightly so that it is not caught on that stitch finger. And I'm lining up right up against my blade and right up against my needles. And I am going to lower that foot. Now, you may find it easy to use your knee lift to raise and lower in a project like this. Now, I want to pull on my threads. There's like about 1/8 of an inch of extra thread that when you pull on it, you will get a beautiful corner. And I'm going to continue just a little bit more. And let me show you the beautiful corner that I was able to achieve by doing that. I will continue serging to clean up and finish the edges of all of my table runner, and I'll be right back. So I've completed my table runner with my beautiful serged corners. Now, of course, if you like, you can bind the table runner as well, but I really like that nice, quick serged edge as my finish. Now, the completed size of this, once it's trimmed up, is approximately 12 to 12.5 inches wide by 72 long. So this makes a great runner that can hang over your table or even a bed scarf. This is a beautiful project that can be used both on a table or on a bed. Now, I chose not to quilt mine because I really wanted to see that fabric that I chose. And this is a great project to use with those novelty fabrics and holiday fabrics that sometimes we're like, that fabric is so pretty, I just don't want to cut it up and use it. And this really allows you to see all of those beautiful prints. I can't wait for you to show me your table runners or bed scarves and see what you create with this project. Until next time, bye-bye.